My name is Haven.
Allie.
Hannah.
Emily. And this is the Kite Runner chapters 17 through 25.
Alright, so some key points. Chapter 17 is Hassan's letter. So, do we have anything to say about Hassan's letter?
I mean,
How we felt about it, how it made us feel.
I guess I was a little surprised because when Hassan and his father left the house the last time that Amir saw them, like it kind of gave off the feel that like he kind of hated him a little bit and never really wanted to talk to him, see him again. And then he receives this letter that's like, for you 1,000 times again, and 1,000 times over. I don't know.
Yeah, alright. Another one was the description of how Hassan died and why is it so detailed. So, I feel like, how Hassan and his family died. It was like, it wasn't they died and
It was very graphic.
it was...
Was it Ramir Khan was describing it to Amir? I think that part of that is the fact that he wanted to really stir, like, action into Amir, like you have to go pick up Sorab. Sorab.
Right.
I don't know.
And then on another end of it, I feel like as a reader, that was given to us in such deep description to kind of put us into Amir's mindset and have us feeling the same emotion that Amir does.
There's pathos playing with the detail, like that's...
Yeah, definitely.
Hassan and Amir are related, and how does Amir take it? So yeah, surprise!
Oh my gosh.
The reason why your father was like spoiling this kid was because that's his son.
The second I read that, I texted Haven.
Is it all caps? Your brother.
I know.
So yeah, the whole approach, like how they just,
I mean, it kind of explains everything because Baba was so attached to his Hazara, and
It was shocking, but it made sense.
Yeah, like he
Like, you
cried when
started
they
to think
left.
that.
He treated him the same as to the extent that societal standards let him, and he got him that surgery.
Son.
right, treating him better than his son. I mean, he got him surgery. I mean, I'm pretty sure it costs a fortune. I don't know, like he took care of them, and I think if we look back in the other chapters, like right there, he's like, you can never say, just leave their family. And we're like, oh, that's so cute. No, they're family.
And that's and like the first time we read that, like way back when Amir was like, I want them to go, and Baba was like, that's not allowed. We were just kind of under the mindset, oh well, I mean, I guess that's fine. Like Amir, had his name is escaping me. Hassan's dad. Yeah, Ali as his Hassan. He's in that. And then so I guess it kind of like ran in the family, like to have their family with them. But then it really changes once you know what happened. Amir wasn't thrilled at the. I think he was. I don't know how he felt. I mean, he felt angry that it was hidden from him for so long. But I think the real anger lied in the fact that maybe he wouldn't have,
tried to hide that he was his friend, or all those other things.
He would have treated him so much better.
Yeah.
And it's more anger at himself, even though he's saying he's angry at Rahim Khan or Baba. It's real anger at himself. Maybe.
I feel like there's a thing that's like, I feel like he's happy too because do you know what I'm saying? Like he felt attached to this. Now he has, I don't know, like he has cause to feel proud of Hassan. It's not a competition. He can let that go. But at the same time, you let your brother get raped. So
right, exactly.
Like that will haunt him. Okay. Moving on to chapter. Any more before we move on? No.
What's the man?
Alright. Chapter 18. It is all coming back to Amir. He realizes the foreshadows of his life. So this is where he starts seeing,
It's kind of funny that you put that in there because here I was reading this like, wow, what comes around goes around kind of thing. Like, as harsh as that may sound, I mean, it really did come full circle a lot when he was on his trip to Afghanistan. Like, which I think was good in a sense to help him cope with his guilt and his past. But yeah, especially in the coming chapters.
I think something really powerful is like when Amir points out that Baba said like the worst thing you can do is steal,
Mm-hmm.
and yet he stole Amir's brother from him essentially. Like his entire life he was told like that's the absolute worst thing you can do, and then someone that he looked up to so much and told him that was the worst thing to do was doing it himself. Like
Right. And from Baba's point of view, he's probably telling his son this to kind of make amends with himself and to try and ensure that his son didn't make the same kind of mistakes and have carry such guilt and burden. But so he was kind of telling himself that too, I feel. But yeah.
I feel like Amir I think like at this point he realizes in trying to escape, like in trying to become his father or what he thought of his father, he became what his father was in real life.
Yeah.
Another point was, do we respect Baba the same way? Now we know what he did. Do we still see him? Do we still have the same position that we had for him? You know,
I
like
mean,
we looked at him.
I really do, because everybody has those things that, like, when it comes down to it, you're not a perfect person. I don't know.
I think the time I had most respect for Baba was when he was so weak and going up to the house to ask for Surya to marry his son, which is interesting because there were so many times where he was high and mighty and helping people, building orphanages, defending the woman so that like on the trains that or in the car so that she didn't like get raped by the soldier. And there were so many times where he was so much stronger. And I think that's when I had the most respect for him. I don't think this made me respect him any less. Actually, until your question, until I read this, I didn't think about that. Was it clear? Did Ali know? He didn't know. He thought it was his son.
No, he knew.
He knew.
He knew.
He knew.
Yeah.
And so I don't think, like, it wasn't like it was a big.
Yeah, like, he told other people. It was
Right, it was
just
just
I
a
mean,
secret.
Amir
really.
and
They knew, like
Hassan.
Rahim Khan knew and Ali knew, but
Yeah.
that was to the extent.
You know, that's the part about
I don't know. I didn't have the most respect for him at this point because you let your son be your servant, and you let your other son, who's seen as like higher up, boss him around. I don't know. I lost a lot of respect at that point.
And I think it's really hard for us to see it all in context because, like, as much as like we want to say that would never happen in America, especially like now. And like I hate saying this, but I mean, like Afghanistan, like that was never a place where, I mean, societal standards and what people thought of you, that's their culture, and I feel like it's part of who they are, and. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I mean, it would never happen now, and like I think it's awful that he did he let his son be his servant, like just due to the fact that he didn't want people to think badly of him and his family.
But I kind of think that even though he letting him be his servant, like in another situation, like with another family or like someone who doesn't care for their Hazaras or whatever, he would have been in a much worse situation than he was with Baba. And
I feel like at the end of the day, regardless of where you are, what status you have, whatever you have, because Baba is not, again, like we are given this setting, but he's not the cookie cutter Afghan rich person. He made the American dream in Afghanistan. He went from rags to riches. And so when so many things, and religion, he's not a very, very religious person. In the middle of Afghanistan, hardcore of Islam. So like he's very unconventional in certain things that society sees as they matter, but people don't care that he's unconventional. But he pinpoints certain things that he chooses to be appealing to society, and that bothers me. In that you could have went ahead and kept that child. You know, you should not have. You know how like I can't. I mean, forget about Hassan and Amir. They'll grow up and they'll do things, but your friend, you know, like he got this wife and he was excited, and you went ahead and took his wife and you had a baby, and this man is raising your child for you, and he's not saying. I don't know. I don't comprehend that.
We've always seen that Papa's been very proud. Like from our very first discussion, he's a proud man.
Right.
But then I see what you're saying, especially if you look at the intention of why he slept with Ali's wife. It was to have, you know, for Ali to have a baby. For what purpose? To be his servant. And I feel like that really wasn't thought through at the time that that would be his son as a servant. And it wasn't just an accident. It wasn't out of lust or anything like that. Or it was to have a child. And then I think he realized, like, wow, this is my child. And, you know, he carried that guilt.
I just don't comprehend how you could let a piece of you serve you. Make him feel like he's beneath you. I mean, because they're treated as dirt. I mean, granted, Baba treats them better, But yeah, so that's a point that really takes me off a bit. Okay. Let's see. Do we expect an end to the cycle? So Rahim Khan tells him that it's an end to the cycle of life. Like Shorab is the end of the cycle, and my question is like, is it the end of the cycle, or what? Like, I don't know. I'm thinking of this question. So like an end to the cycle.
We can think
of
of it in
life.
terms of closure too.
Yeah, like closure would Shora be a closure to this?
I think it's kind of just like the end of the cycle of his like Afghanistan, like part of his life. Like they're all going to America, and he can leave that behind him, and it's clean slate.
I don't think it's closure because I mean, like now that we read on, you know, so we can discuss it. Like that's not the way the book. It's not closure because
I'm gonna talk about the end. It's so
Yeah.
hard not to like to talk about all this and not talk about the end.
we're gonna skip this part right here. So Amir goes to
Sorry.
Kabul. That's what happens at the end of 18, going down to 19. Amir is in Kabul. Chapter 19, setting of Kabul as described by Amir. These are very detailed. Again, like his Afghanistan, like Pakistan now to Afghanistan.
Is
They're
that
very
where one of
detailed.
our passages is from? That we're
So,
analyzing?
yes, the
Okay.
setting part is from there too.
Do you want to go ahead and do that now?
Yeah. All right. Rhetorical analysis. All right. Setting of Kabul as described by Amir. Okay. Let me find the chapter. Okay, it said
Chapter
right
19 starts on 229.
228.
Yeah.
Alright, so 231. This is the only one. 231, and it's the one that says, we had crossed the border, and the signs of poverty were everywhere, on either side of the road. I saw chains of little villages sprouting here and there, like discarded toys among the rocks, broken mud houses and huts, consisting of little more than 4 wooden poles and a tattered cloak as a roof. I saw children dressed in rags chasing a soccer ball outside the huts. A few miles later, I spotted a cluster of men sitting on their haunches, like a row of crows, on the carcass of an old burned-out Soviet tank, the wind fluttering the edges of the blankets thrown around them. Behind them, a woman in a brown burqa carried a large clay pot on her shoulder, down a rutted path toward a string of mud houses. So, imagery.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
filled with imagery.
Mhm.
I think there's also a lot of symbolism there, like the carcass of the Soviet tank kind of shows how, I mean, the Soviets aren't there anymore, and that part of that part of this time in history is over, and empty as the carcass would be.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the discarded toys and the rubble and the rocks, I think that also maybe symbolizes like the end of childhood for so many, like the discarded toys.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like the metaphor helps the imagery. You know, I saw chains of little villages sprouting here and there, like discarded toys, more of a sibling. So yeah. Um, intention. Do we want to look at that? So what's the intention?
I think the intention is to give us a picture of what they're going into, and I think it's important that they started it off with, like, right when they cross the border. I mean, if you think about it, it's probably not like right when you cross the border, like when we go from state to state, like welcome to Ohio. Like it probably didn't start right there, but I think in the in text it's important that it says like it's just confined to this area, and I think the intention is to just give us a picture of what's happening in kind of a pretext, if that's the right word, to what's like going to happen.
And I think this is really important because I think it's like the first time Amir realizes how bad everything has truly gotten. So if you look through like poverty and like everything is just broken down, and when he was there, everything was like so built up and like he had the entire world ahead of him, and now it's just little patches.
And going off of that, if you look at like the bigger picture of things, like when you're away from something and when you don't see something directly, it's so easy to just like ignore it and push it into the corner like, oh well, that's not like really happening, even though all of us like know like it does happen, and it occurs a lot more often than anyone would care to admit. But when you're there and you're like seeing and experiencing what the people that of your culture that you're connected to, I think that takes out a part of you.
And if we can maybe jump a little bit, I don't exactly know where it was, but when are you pronouncing his name Fadi? When he says like this is like the real Afghanistan, like you were never really God, I can't think of the wording, but it was very strong the way it was. Like you were never a part of that. You were always in your own little rich world.
Right, next page, 232.
Yeah, he says something about like you still think this is your country, like
It was never
your country.
And like for me, this really hit home because that is exactly I came here, and like when it's out of ignorance and childlikeness. But when people told me, "Did you learn in a dirt house?" I was confused. I was like, I thought everyone lived like me, except for the beggars I'd see. And I was like, and I didn't comprehend. I was made to see what I could only see, and I can never say, when people say explain this country for me, I didn't know these tribes existed. Like I knew people that were like me and that lived around me. So I can never really, like I was saying, Ethiopian, and I love my country, but I can never give you. I can't say, like, if I go back home, someone like this will come and say, no, you don't know it, because there's starving people, and you don't understand your history like you should. So this really hit home. I cried on this one.
Yeah. So the exact wording is, that's the Afghanistan I know. You've always been a tourist here. You just didn't know it.
So that.
I mean, he's saying like, oh, I feel like a tourist, like not thinking anything of it, and this guy's just like, well, you've always been a tourist.
Yeah, you
like,
never lived here to begin with.
Like you live like this, like how the majority of people do.
But I think the same could be said for like any country you go to. Like there's poverty in any country, and there's parts of the city that like I know I've never been to, and that's just the reality.
That's true.
I think the difference that I'll tell you, if you are in America, if I would rather be in an American ghetto than go back home and be where I am, because at least I'll go to jail and be fed. I'm just telling you, it's just a fact. Or I will die easily with a bullet on my chest and I'll be fine. There, I have to starve. If I have to, do you know what I'm saying? Like the difference. So like I like, you can still. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if you're as bad as it's getting, and I understand that, but like it's
As bad as it is here, it'll never be as bad there, or it'll never be worse.
Yeah.
Worse
here.
Yeah. It's yeah.
We got your point.
Sorry.
So
It's gonna sound really profound, and I just ruined it. So we'll just skip that part. Anyway,
character conflict.
Okay. Should we go back? No, literally.
Character conflict.
So that is. Wait a minute. That's where it go to. I had the pages and I hit complete, and now it's gone off my notification. The pages. Okay, excellent. It was. They go to the orphanage.
Okay.
And it's where they talk to Zaman.
God, this is hard to kill.
Yeah. And so let's see. No food, no clean water. Okay. Alright, so page 255. So it says, let's see. He tapped the table with a pencil. Despite your promise, I think I'll live to regret this. So this is, backdrop to, he's talking to Hassan and telling him where Sharab would be. It's just, we tapped the table with the pencil. Despite your promise, I think I'll live to regret this. But perhaps it's just as well. I'm damned anyway. But if something can be done for Sharab, I'll tell you because I believe you. You have the look of desperate man. He was quiet for a long time. There's a Talib official, he muttered. He visits once every month or two. He brings cash with him. Not a lot, but better than nothing at all. His shifty eyes fell on me, rolled away. Usually, he'll take a girl, but not always. And you allow this? Farah said behind me. He was going around the table, closing in on Zaman. What choice do I have? Zaman shot back. He pushed himself away from the desk. You're the director here, Farid said. Your job is watch over these children. There's nothing I can do to stop it. You're selling children, Farid barked. Farid, sit down, let it go, I said. But I was too late, because suddenly Farid was leaping over the table. Zaman's chair went flying as Farid fell on him and pinned him to the floor. The director trashed beneath Farid and made muffled screaming sounds. His legs kicked a desk drawer free and sheets of paper spilled to the floor. But yeah.
I think what I see in this is like, we always, like, in each of our podcasts, we talked about how the other characters kind of reflect on what Amir is thinking and feeling, and I kind of think that even though you don't see him taking any action in this, that Farid kind of encompasses what he's feeling on the inside and what he actually, like, wants to be doing and how he wants to punish the director, because that should never happen, but he was raised to be calm. Or, like, in our American culture, like, if you confront someone, you're calm about it. You don't go swinging.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't go swinging.
Let's go.
True. Maybe they do in some areas.
Yeah.
Who knows?
What?
I guess it depends on if you're, like, I don't
Right.
know.
Makes sense. This is a really hard part for me because, he's selling these kids for the food for the other kids, and it kind of goes back to that, like, idea, like, would you sacrifice one to save the whole? And it's so tricky because he gave up his entire life savings, and I think the part that got me, like, most choked up was when he put on the Birkin glasses, and then I don't know, I couldn't even take it at that point, but too much pathos, I guess, if we're gonna talk like that.
I feel like what also messes with our pathos is the amount of logos in here, is that when he says, what could have I done? I couldn't have done nothing. Like, he's telling you facts. Mm-hmm. I don't have money, these people are bringing me money, and if I give them a child, they'll give me money. That means the kids will have food. These are facts you cannot say well, you could have done this. No, you could have died if you would have done this, or these kids.
Mm-hmm.
So the logos, like the fact that he's putting, you can't refute, or you can't say no, you can't.
There was no easy way out
Exactly.
for him, and so it raises a like really, I don't know what the word is, but conflicting views, I guess, on this guy and on his interactions with them, because we hate the fact that he's, you know, giving kids to the Taliban to be raped. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it, because I don't.
What do we think of Fareed? I think we have to do the two people.
Mm-hmm.
So now we thought about Zaman, like Fareed's anger and Amir's anger. So what do we think of, like, him, rhetorically? I don't know.
Is this before or after we have the scene with his family?
It's
This is after.
Yeah, so we kind of, like, you can kind of see that, like, he adores them and they adore him, and there's that, like, level of respect, and that a child is, like, precious, is, like, the future generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think his reaction is based on the fact that his family is so close, and he would probably do anything for them. Whereas, like, Amir, like, he had problems with his family, and he might not have that strong of a drive as Fareed. But I kind of like him as a character. He's honest, and
I didn't like him at first. I just thought he was like a really sour taxi driver or whatever. Like,
I really
because
enjoyed him.
he was so rude.
yeah, I liked him.
He
really
was so
liked him.
rude and everything. But then, like, I think that really changed once he found out, you know, why
story,
Amir
yeah.
was coming back and to get that child. And then I think a necessary part to us understanding his character was when he was having that conversation with his wife. Like, we have to be, you know, hospitable. Like, yeah, the kids are hungry, but I mean, he's a guest. Like, what do you want me to do? And I think I mean, it could go both ways. You could lose respect for him for that or gain it. I gained it. I thought it was, I mean, I think that just shows the Afghanistan culture, though.
Exactly, yeah.
And then,
that's what I was gonna say.
He's a good man. He has a lot of passion and a lot in his heart, but, yeah, I mean, maybe not a whole lot of understanding, but at that point, I mean, he has kids of his own and was finding out that kids are just being given away to be raped and
For me, like, especially here, where, like, he shoots back with these questions right after Zaman is done. He doesn't wait or to think about them. Like, you know, his emotions are high. Like, whether Zaman would have answered him or not, he would have shot right back either way. Just the way that was ordered. And there's a whole lot of exclamation point when he talks. And he's very emotional. There's a whole lot of pathos with him. A quote that really pulled me was, like, I feel like I'm trying to pull out meanings that are different, like thin air, but I saw he had put on his broken glasses, and this is Zaman, and, like, at first I was like, oh, he's so poor that he does this, but is this a symbol of his character? Like, he has a broken character, and he knows that, but he just keeps, like, you know, like, he's a good, like, you know, he was whole once, but he's broken, and it just keeps getting, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think.
if we want to go real deep, it's how he sees the world, kind of broken.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
No, I don't know if that's right, but you can take it like
I
that.
have such good insight that I'm just here.
No.
God, that, I don't know why, like, that made, like, that really, like, shook me so badly that when he put on those glasses. Like, I don't know why it hit me so much.
Okay. This is gonna get all of us upset. The Afghan humor about the kid and the wife. You know, you slapped my wife, so I'm gonna beat your daughter, or that.
I
Afghan
didn't
humor.
really understand that.
I
so.
wanted to, like, choke
It
somebody.
was Afghan humor,
at
like,
all.
no, I know
I
what
was like,
it
that's
is,
like
but
their reality,
there's nothing
not-
funny about it.
No, I wrote it in all caps. Afghan humor. That's, I mean, chapter 21.
It kind of reminds me of, like, the British, but then, like, 10 times worse.
It's
One
so
is, like, British
morbid.
satire. It's so morbid, and I guess that's context, and
I guess that's how they deal with it and cope with it, but
yeah.
I didn't think it was funny at all.
I mean, all their jokes, like, did you hear about whatever? And
I was
it's just
like-
really not funny at all. But maybe they think our jokes are amateur, so who knows?
No, it's like he beat her too, then sent her back to tell the husband that Mullah was no fool. If the bastard was going to beat his daughter, then Mullah would beat his wife in return. I laughed, partly at the joke, partly how Afghan humor never changed. Yeah, so.
Like, I couldn't
can't
see
find
anything
humor.
funny about that.
I couldn't find it. Even if you
So-
put a husband in a place or a man, it's not like a sexist, like a feminist thing. It's just, you don't treat humans like this. So.
Bad joke.
It isn't a joke.
Yeah.
Period. Like I wanted to go back on to chapter 20 and talk about the beggar and the university, like the beggar who was a university professor. I feel like that was a profound, like as to how far Afghan fell. Was you could see that in that beggar, a university, top class, fine man, well educated, now is a beggar who smells like sour milk and feet that hasn't been washed. So, yeah, that disturbed my stomach. We can move on. Amir gets nostalgic. Do you want to talk about his nostalgia?
We're talking about the part when he finds out about his mom, or after?
Yeah, it's just
Sorry.
like, he goes back to the house and he sees, the thing, and he's like, this is where me and Hassan played, and this is what the house was, and this is who our neighbors were. So this is the point. The thing for me, I think it was at the end of chapter 21, is the Taliban carrying out the Sharia law and the reaction of the crowd in Farid. I would like to discuss that. How the crowd reacted and what Farid said at the end, and they called themselves Muslim.
Oh, they're sturdy.
Yeah.
This made me very angry.
Yeah.
I feel like part of the crowd's reaction though was just like the Taliban, basically, because like you're not allowed to cheer for a soccer game, but you better be cheering for a stoning.
Yeah, I mean this has happened across the board with every religion and in every time period and all over the world where religion is used to defend violence and hate. I mean, you go back to the KKK, the Holocaust.
Yeah. I feel like part
Now.
Yeah, now. Part of the crowd, I feel like, it's a half and half for me, because I feel like there was I understand they have guns and stuff, but when the Taliban came, people were happy that they came. Granted that as time went on, they started seeing what the Taliban can do, but there might have still been people in there that are like, yes, stone the crap out of this guy. You know what I'm saying? But like, I liked Farid's last comment, and he was like, and they call themselves a Muslim, and that brings back home the whole religion thing.
Especially because that's still going on. So, yeah, it's really relevant.
Chapter 22. We were waiting for this.
Oh,
Yes.
this is so hard.
Amir meets with the Taliban that we now know as Asaf, the nut job. Yes. That's all I can say.
I like kind of saw that coming. That
I-
whole thing.
I was
I was like, here we go.
That was,
I mean,
like,
he had the
second
glasses,
textual
and
statement.
he had the glasses, and he had like the pale skin and everything. But like, what the heck?
Well, this is
Well, just because he was like the entire time he's in Afghanistan, he was reconciling with his past, and I was like, this is gonna come back.
no. This guy, like, I couldn't see it coming, but once it came, I was like, of course, this guy loved Hitler. What the heck? What else could happen? Like, he did. He was like, yes, I like
He was a
Hitler.
birthday present, had a book about Hitler.
Yes, the same guy.
I know.
So now he comes back to be a little miniature Hitler in his own
He's
little
running
place.
his own.
Yeah. So
And that was really, really, really disturbing. Thinking about the fact that, like, I mean, the Taliban just seemed like all these like distant people, and like they're doing bad stuff. Like this, it seemed like there's this I don't know, big
Disconnect.
figure that wasn't so close to home, and then to find out that someone from his childhood is a part of that. I mean, it'd be like us knowing somebody, a member of the KKK. Like, I think that's an equivalent. Knowing somebody, a terrorist group in your own country.
that's the main leader of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And,
online. Yeah.
I think that's really, really disturbing.
I think for us that the whole point was like, and I'm pretty like, I mean, the book teaches you without really preaching to you, but it gives you a hint of like who the Taliban is run by is these nutcases who
Love him.
Well, and it's
love
made
Hitler.
right, and it's made up of individual people, which
Yes,
is
correct.
another point that I think the reason SF was brought into this is to show that it's not just some distant figure. It's real people,
That
which
you grew
I
up
don't.
with.
I'm not like content. Okay.
Ah,
It is really
okay,
disturbing.
America the whore. So that ticked it.
Can we find this? 'Cause
Yeah, he's like, you left that whore. I was like, wait, how did he know he was married? And then he was talking about America. I was like, sweetheart, you better go on somewhere. Not today, not today. Okay, well, let's see. We can talk about it as we find it, or someone can say something.
okay. Yeah, I don't want to bore Miss David. She has
Yeah.
Well, you find that. Can we talk about how like Asaf and Amir ended things
Yes.
with them? So
I kind of jumped up and got really excited when the slingshot hit him.
they brought back like the what was it, brass knuckles, and then the
Yeah.
slingshot, and like it's their childhood all over again.
I know, and like, I mean, the whole thing with the slingshot and the full circle with that, and it made me like, I don't know, it sounds terrible, but I was like, oh my gosh, no, get out! Like, I got so into that part, and like a little like pride moment, I guess, too, because like, I don't know, it was like seeing Hassan again, but no, and, that was really.
But I can't even.
I don't even want to talk about the description of Sharab and what he had to do.
That-
Because I
that
just,
was
like, I actually can't, like, it makes me want to throw up, so.
The image Mr. Collins actually sophomore year told us about when he went to these places and he like there was a tent and I think it was like some sort of discussion he had to have. They would have these little boys dressed as girls and they would make them dance and they'll do whatever they wish to do with them after that. I feel like the it's not irony but the hypocrisy of many of these I mean Afghanistan is one of the many that doesn't like allow like a man to man or whatever relationship, but yet they use that as punishment. Like now you can understand why they would not allow it, because that is punishment. You know what I'm saying? You are not allowed to love someone because we use this as punishment. Like this is good punishment.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? So like that brings back. I feel like that kind of sort of explains. Okay, ready? I found it actually while talking. So we left him for the dogs. Dog meat for dogs. He crushed his cigarette, rubbed his eyes with tremendous hands. You come from America? Yes. How's that for these days? I had a sudden urge to urinate. I prayed it would pass. I'm looking for a boy. So yeah. So we understand how he looks at America and the whole ideal. And this again gives us the whole picture of what Taliban thinks,
And like in that section before he actually decides that he's going to defend himself, you see him like as like his younger like version of himself, where he basically says like, okay, you're insulting me, I kind of hate you a lot, but does it really matter? No, I just am here for Sorab.
I feel like this is where Amir separates himself from Baba, where Baba's pride would have gotten him killed in this situation. If Amir would have had that pride and, argued back and forth 600 years. Like, how dare you call it this? But Amir, I feel like the fact that he doesn't have this pride or something played to his benefit.
He stuck to his point.
Yeah.
I'm here for the boy.
Yeah, I feel like that helped him.
And then.
But I don't know how Asif didn't make the connection that Sorab would have been.
He made the connection. That's why he got Shora.
Is that?
Yeah,
Wait.
because they look. I mean, Hassan. When
Really?
Amir,
No, I
when
felt
Amir-
like he didn't know.
I thought he didn't know.
Because I don't think he would have given.
No, because this is the thing. When Amir describes him, I feel like this is more like you have to look.
It
like,
makes sense. But
Amir
kind of,
describes
but-
like Shorab as it. Like when he sees him, he's like Rahim didn't do justice to the description that he made. He's a doppelganger of Hassan as a kid, and this kid right now, while he's raping him right now, is the same or 2 years younger than when he raped Hassan. So he knows. So if this kid looks like a doppelganger, he chose him.
And I think,
That's it.
yeah, and even if he didn't like know for sure if like he was Hassan's son, because that seems a little far fetched. Like, I mean, the fact that he looked like him could have definitely been
Like
applying
that
into
was
why he took him and tortured him, which makes him like a real complicated.
that took me. I'm probably gonna read the son and the father. Okay.
Some people are
12.
bad from this part.
So the fight, the actual fight. Yes. Woo.
It was a
Man.
long time coming.
Yeah. I was ready for that. I swear to you. I felt very bad, but I was yes.
When he starts to laugh,
You need to
and
knock
then
him out.
bam, slingshot.
And I kind of felt like when he was like, you know how Asif like told that story about how the guards were like beating him and he was laughing and that's how and he like survived or whatever. I kind of felt like,
Amir
oh,
was good.
he's laughing. He's
Yeah.
gonna like get out of it. Like,
Mhm.
wow.
So let's see.
And that led to a long,
Recovery,
yeah.
struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 23. Yeah. So Sharav and Amir. Okay. So we go move on to chapter 23. Well, Amir passes out at this point, and he's describing the hotel, like what he sees.
And like stream of consciousness.
Yeah, like
Big
I
time.
fade out.
Yeah.
And then
I see this.
And you see
I
his
fade out.
memory too,
Mhm.
because he can't remember what happened and then it starts coming back.
And then at first, I think when Sharab comes in and doesn't talk to him, we're all like, oh yeah, he's a quiet boy, whatever. But if you think about what Amir looked like at this point, and Sharab is like a little boy, I don't think any child would act any differently. It's scary.
I mean, granted, with the exception of his father, the only guy you knew were the ones that gave you up and raped you. That's the only guys you know. And this random guy is fighting this guy to, you know.
But he used that slingshot to defend him, so
Right.
he
So
knew
we
like,
know
he was
that he
a
was on a good
good
side.
guy. But then to see him in a hospital bed in the state that I picture him in,
It's a
probably would
good
disturb
story.
any kid.
Rahim Khan letter and Amir's interpretation. So Rahim writes him a letter.
I was really annoyed with that actually.
Yeah.
I started to lose respect for him, which seems wrong because like he had every good intention. But when he said, "Don't come find me," like no offense, he got Amir into this mess, and like although it was redemptive and ended up being, a good thing in the end, like he got him into a huge mess and then said, "Don't come find me." Like I feel like that's a little bit cowardly, sending him into such an area of violence and then like just stepping back and saying, well, "Sorry," like
Figure
sucks
it out
you.
for yourself.
Yeah, figure it out.
I was thinking, I didn't even think of that. That was a good point. I was just thinking that, he's probably going to die soon and he understands how long this thing was going to take. The process was complicated. So by the time he's going to go and try to find him, there's no point in going and find the man that's
And just the fact
going to
that
die.
and just the fact that he waited until he was going to die anyway.
Right.
That's also really cowardly. And I think, I don't know.
But like if he would have asked earlier, would he have come to Afghanistan?
I don't think, I don't know. The fact that he said there's a way to be good again, he could have said that, 10 years ago, and it would have had the same impact, I think, that he still would have come. And the fact that he was an old man was never a part of why Amir followed through and went and got, Sharab. I think, it was the fact that, he was his nephew. And I don't know, I just think it's really crappy of him to just like wait until he's going to die and then say, "Don't come find me," like figure it out. But that's just my opinion. I don't know.
As morbid as this sounds, I felt like he was waiting till Baba dies so he can go.
Yeah,
I feel
which
like
makes
that was
sense. I
more-
get that, but Baba had been dead for quite a while, and Rahim Khan knew that.
I felt
It's
like-
hard to see the passage of time in this book.
Very difficult. That is one
It's
thing
really
I
hard to
complain
see.
about.
They put it in there sometimes, but
And then you lose time.
yeah, it's really hard to see. And I don't know if that's a flaw. I don't know if it matters, but.
Sharab and Amir Sharab and Amir communicate and talk, and then we find out another lie from Rahim Khan that hey, these American people, they don't exist. So you
Yeah.
have this kid Go fend for yourself. There we go.
That I wasn't quite as I kind of like wasn't surprised at all. The
Nor
fact
was
that
I.
they didn't exist and the entire time this is happening, I forgot that he was going to take him to that American orphanage. I just assumed he was going to take him home.
Yeah.
That was never a surprise to me. But it was still happy to be there.
We are going on 46 minutes, so we might want to skip through.
Okay.
All right. Ending.
I'll just-
What do we think?
Yeah. Ending was. We can do the thing right now, the speech, because it's at the ending after we talk about it. So, Amir says, I looked down at Shorab. It's page 370, 371. I looked down at Shorab. One corner of his mouth had curled up just so, a smile, lopsided. Hardly there, but there. Behind us, kids were scampering, and a melee of screaming kite runners was chasing the loose kite, drifting high above the trees. I blinked, and the smile was gone. But it had been there. I had seen it. Do you want me to run the kite for you? His Adam's apple rose and fell as he swallowed. The wind lifted his hair. I thought I saw him nod. For you, 1,000 times over, I heard myself say. Then I turned and ran.
That
So-
was a lot of closure in one paragraph.
Yeah, a whole lot.
Because they were waiting so long for him to just become responsive.
Just so sad, especially for Soria. Like, all the stuff that she wanted him to join the bowling league and to play sports, swim lessons, and which is kind of unrealistic to expect that. Like, I get that. And I thought the ending was really appropriate because it wasn't a happy ending. Because, if you look at this conflict that's still going on in Afghanistan, there is no happy ending to date. And this book didn't deserve a happy ending because that would have been so unrealistic and would have taken away from everything else, but it was a satisfying ending. I didn't feel betrayed or anything like that.
I feel like the way it's put, it's like a smile, period, lopsided, period, hardly there, period. Like, do you know what I'm saying? It was just,
Right.
I think that helped the pathos. Him repeating for you 1,000 times over,
Yeah,
that also,
that was really a good closure.
that was a good pathos.
That was a really
right
good
there.
way to close the book.
That's, I feel like that's when the cycle is broken. Hassan said 1,000 times for you, so many times. Now finally Amir says it and the book ends. That was excellent. I don't know.
I think we can all agree that this book was filled with pathos. The way that we described it last time was that, for the most part, he told it how it was, and then we, just the fact that this book was the historical context and what's going on invoked the pathos. Not, he wasn't like, oh, I'm so sad, or anything like that. He didn't have to say anything for us to feel really emotional about it.
Do you want to go into overall opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think you kind of just touched on, but I just really loved it because it kept my attention and from cover to cover, and I feel like that's kind of rare to find because somewhere times in the middle of the book I've set it down and I'm like, oh, I'll come back to it.
It was strung
later.
throughout.
It was. It was beautiful despite all the tragedy of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's realistic. It was
Yeah,
very
that's
real.
why I think it was beautiful that it was real. Not actually real.
Right. Oh,
It was hard to read, as in, the path, I don't know, the emotions were so real, and, I think, that made it so hard to read, but, it was real, it was genuine, and it didn't feel sugar-coated by any means, and I think there's a real art to the way that that's done.
Okay, and then the last thing we had to talk about was the theme thesis.
I mean, 1,000 times, for you, 1,000 times over is repeated multiple times.
I don't know about theme necessarily, but I was thinking about it, and I feel like he intended to create a character who encompass the different aspects of our humanity and make him fully relatable to every audience member, and you see his talent with creating his characters despite the unfamiliar culture and language and the setting. It's so easy to step into Amir's shoes and feel his
You
pain.
can identify with something.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a big theme of this also was redemption. and how we find that when, like, I mean, when Amir did something that he carried so heavily on his shoulders, and like how he found that redemption, and then like his journey throughout that.
Because I don't think there's really one theme to the book. Like,
No, I mean there's that, there's, I mean, the whole religious thing, like how, I mean, he found God at the end and was very like into praying again and finding God when, I mean, he was suffering the most. I think there's the theme of like you think you know somebody and